Welcome to the Better Business, Better Life show. I'm your podcast host, Debra Chantry-Taylor. In this podcast, I interview business owners, EOS implementers, and business experts who share with you their experiences, tips, and tools to help you create not only a better business, but also a better life. At the end of each show, you will have 3 tips or tools that our guests share that you can implement immediately into your life. If you want more information or want to get in contact, you can visit my website, debra.coach. That's DEBRA.coach. Please enjoy the show. Today, I am joined by Adam Wolfe, who is the co-founder and visionary of Builders of Architecture, and also one of my EOS clients and colleagues. So welcome to the show, Adam. Awesome to have you here.
Thanks, Debra. Good to be here.
Yeah. So you founded or co-founded Builders of Architecture back in 2009. That's 14 years in business, which, in the building industry, the way it is at the moment, is certainly no mean feat. Tell me why you started on that pathway and how you developed to where you are today.
Well, when I think about my journey, I actually had a vision of always being a builder. I think I was always good with my hands. My sort of school or academic attributes weren't that great, and I always did quite well with my hands. And so I had this vision that I would become a builder. I think when I was a young guy, I would tell my parents I wanted to build roads.
Oh, really?
But yeah, I don't know why. Maybe it was the machinery and that sort of stuff. But
big Tonka trucks. I can relate to that too.
Yeah, and so and then I found myself a forklift driver working for a car radio company as a young guy. I left school early and a bit of a misfit, sort of partied and played up a bit and was a bit of a rebel, and ended up leaving that job after 5 years, and one of my mates told me to come and work for him at a cabinet making place. And so I was 26 at the time, and I went there, and they were actually struggling quite a lot to find people to support them with the shop fitting joinery they were doing at the time. And I came in, and it was pretty easy for me, and I did it very quickly and easily, and they were really, really happy with what I was doing, offered me an adult apprenticeship. And so I did that from 26 till sorry, I'm giving you the wrong ages there. I was 22 when I started, so I was an adult at 22, did that till I was 26. And then instantly when I finished it, I actually had a friend, a close mate, who died in a car accident just around that time, and it was a big deal for our group of mates. It was pretty significant, and I booked a flight within a couple of weeks of him dying to London. I was just like, I need to go and live my life. So I quit my job after I got my certificate, and I flew to London, and my now business partner was there already. He had a British passport, and I had a few people over there that I knew, including my sister. And so I went to London and was a qualified cabinet maker over there, lived there, enjoyed the life over there, and learned quite a lot in terms of my trade. There was a company that I worked for who was affiliated with a builder as well. So I saw a builder and joinery company working together there, and I always had in my mind that I would be a builder. I didn't realise that I was manifesting it at the time and sort of goal setting, but came home from London, did a building course with the Master Builders of Victoria, realised how little I knew and what I needed to learn, and actually got a job with my cousin with a company called Bowden Corp, which was just amazing. James Bowden, shout out to him. He's a great bloke and supported me a lot in my journey and enabled me to run projects for him, high-end architectural homes, to get me the experience that I could to go for the license that I needed and build that portfolio of projects amongst many other things that you need to get it. And then Craig and I, because Craig came back to Melbourne as well at the same time as me, and he did the course with me as well, but we parted ways after we realised we weren't ready to get the registration. And he reached out to me about 4 years in and said, I've built a little maintenance business, and it's getting to the point where I'm doing things I probably shouldn't. I need a license. Can you, what do you think? And I was really close to applying for my license. And so he was turning over $300,000 a year with his little maintenance business. And that was enough to set us up. And that was it. We kicked things off. And I remember signing a contract for a project. It was a big garage for my wife's hairdresser. And I still didn't have my registration. But I got it. And
it was a garage.
Yeah. We got the registration, and the rest is history. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. And so then that sort of started to form. It wasn't always called Builders of Architecture, was it?
No, it wasn't.
What was the business originally?
So originally the maintenance business was called Rock City Resolutions, and that was Craig's previous business, and that was sort of formed around working from Richmond, and so it was solid constructions in the city. That was kind of the premise of the name, and resolutions because it was maintenance, I guess. And then we just kept that name because of the maintenance work that we were still doing, but we changed it to Rock City Building Group and created it as a company. That name never really sat well with me. I think potentially Craig as well. But yeah, in 2018, I think we rebranded to Builders of Architecture.
And that is because obviously the business is very much about building architecturally designed homes. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. I think we talked about calling it Bullen and Wolfe, and we had all these different names that we came up with, but always our catch cry was Builders of Architecture. That was the sort of slogan under the names that we came up with. I remember Craig and I discussing it. We were like talking about calling our team pups, because of Wolf Bullen or Bullen Wolf. Anyway, so Builders of Architecture. And then we were doing quite a lot of work in marketing and qualification, and we were, to be honest, we were getting a lot of people call up saying, can you just come around and put a little box on the back of my house, or can you put up a pergola for me, or can you do these maintenance little jobs? And we wanted to get people to qualify themselves out from us. And we felt like our name was a good way to do that because it speaks to what we do.
Yeah, to sort of good size projects of architectural value. Perfect. Okay. And so now, these days, how many staff do you have? What kind of work do you do?
Yeah, so we build high-end homes in Melbourne. They range from $1 million to $5 million. We do some smaller jobs. We have some relationships with some architects that, we've built such a great relationship that we work directly with the architect and the client from an early stage. We've got 11 team in Melbourne. We actually made some pretty significant changes through the COVID period in the business. We used to run a lot of carpenters and labourers and apprentices, and found through COVID that we weren't able to keep up with the requirements put on us. So we had to outsource a lot of that stuff, and it was actually a real revelation for the business. It changed how we operate and made us leaner, but enabled us to reward our team that were performing to a really high level and give them more responsibility. And so in addition to those team members, we also have some team working in the Philippines, and our finance manager, Diego, actually works from Vietnam, which is cool.
Yeah. So I think you're right because you literally kind of changed the way that you do business, and in fact the way that you approach building is quite different too, isn't it? So you like to get involved early on with the architect and the owner, and really get involved, which means you can then be more confident around pricing, timeframes, et cetera, et cetera. Tell me a bit more about that process.
I think the root of that stems from the stories that I hear about the negativity in the industry. And I think every time that I've explored those challenges people face, you can drill it back to a decision that the client's made somewhere along the line. And majority of the time, the client hasn't been given all of the information that they need to make an informed decision. And it's unfair for the client to be in that predicament and then realize that if they had have had some more awareness to the budget from someone that was going to build it, they may have taken a different path. There's a lot of things in this industry, and I don't think people really understand the process to build a home. There's a lot of red tape to cut through. There's a lot of people that are involved to get a project to start on site. And by working with a team of professionals, you just get all of the information you need to make informed decisions at the right time. And so I think the builder needs to be treated as a consultant in the process, particularly for larger homes. I think that they provide a clarity and support an architect in conversations the architect might not be completely across. Specifically around budget, we have obviously a lot to do with the pricing of projects when we price them. And so an architect's job's to design the home. They may have some idea of cost because they're seeing cost, but particularly in the environment we're in at the moment, it's very difficult to know what things are going to cost. And the client needs to be informed through every step of the way that they can afford it. Because I think statistics would say between 50 and 70% of projects don't go ahead.
Wow.
Yeah,
Quite much. Yeah.
It's quite significant that projects just get dropped because there's just a lack of awareness to cost. I mean, there's obviously other reasons that they stop too, but it does lend itself to the decision-making steps and the communication provided. And I feel like if you pick the right builder, obviously you need to pick the right team. It's like anything. You need to pick the right people in your environment to support you through the process, but the outcomes are far better.
Yeah. And that's the proven process that we kind of talk about in EOS is you've got the proven process, you know how to do it, that gives clients some confidence that they're actually going to get the results that they require. So I introduced you as being one of my EOS clients, and I know that we met through EO, so the Entrepreneurs Organization, and you had been self-implementing EOS for a while, and now we're working together. Tell me, how did you come across EOS, and what was it that made you want to think about it for your business?
Well, I guess if I start from the beginning, early days of our business, I use this term quite a lot. I swipe and deploy, and I'd swiped and deployed a lot of paperwork and document from my previous employer. I had a box, like an archive box full of folders and bits of paper and different things that I had acquired and was implementing into my business. And I'd got to a point where I was feeling like I don't know what to do next. I was stuck, and I remember getting a phone call from a lady named Julie. And shout out to Julie and Mick from Builders Business Black Belt. But Julie, obviously, we chatted 3 or 4 times on the phone, but they were a business coach, and I was like, this is just what I need, you know. And so that was maybe 2014, and so ended up joining their organisation and was with them, and I just invested myself in it completely, learned what they talk about as the personal success ritual and all these different tools to help you grow and develop. And it was probably my first real exposure to high-level personal development. I really didn't I didn't have a lot of that awareness in my life up until then, so it was quite late. And moving, that then sort of changed the way I was viewing the world. So I was looking at different things in the social media channels. And anyway, I came across this, what was called an unconvention, Jack Delosar from the Entourage. And it was a free event in Melbourne, so I just went to it. I was just blown away by this event. Now I realise clearly it was 100% a marketing event, and but I wasn't that in tune then. And I ended up moving on from Mick and Business Builders, which was called Uncover Hidden Profits back then. But we moved to Entourage. I did the Entourage. I was there for 4 years and spent some time with Jack Delosar actually on a meditation retreat with Tom Cronin. And he mentioned to me to read the book Rocket Fuel. And I was like, cool. So, and I was obviously reading a lot. I learned how important reading was. And I was like, to develop these habits around reading. And so I read Rocket Fuel, and that was the foundations for me to understand the EOS process. And then I'm not sure what year that would have been. It might have been 17 or 18. And so from there on, I was reading all the books. And I introduced level 10 meetings. We had them on paper. I was doing them for 4 hours at one point. And, it was really crazy. And then Get a Grip just changed it all for me. I read Get a Grip. And my copy of Get a Grip is full of highlighters and dog's ears and, underlines and underscores. And I used that whole book to self-implement EOS into the business. And we definitely had some financial pressure prior to COVID. It was something that, we needed to fix in the business. And so that was one of the real reasons I self-implemented, because we needed to fix things and get it to a place that we could then sort of move from that point. And if I had my time again, I wouldn't have self-implemented.
Oh, no, I think you did a good job. And let's face it, I mean, you had your best year ever the year before I came on board. So obviously you did some things that made a big difference to the business.
True.
But it sounds like 4-hour level 10 meetings, probably doing your own version of EOS as opposed to pure EOS.
Well, actually, I joined EO, and I remember I joined EO sort of mid-COVID because I couldn't go to the Entourage anymore, and because I was in Sydney, and that was a big thing for me, being able to travel there for a couple of days every 6 weeks and get away from the office and do one of their seminars, trainings that they put on. And I'd been recommended to EO by someone who I knew from the Entourage that was no longer there. So I joined EO, which was amazing because it was in Melbourne, and I was put in a forum. And I remember I was in there 3 or 4 months, and I was doing something with EOS, and I posted in a chat, which took me 3 days to write this post because I was just thinking, no one's going to know this. I put it in, I said something about templates for EOS. And Jenny, who is your friend, was in my forum. She said, I'm an EOS implementer. And I went, what? And so I was like, I am in such the right space. And then so I talked with Jenny. I went through all this stuff. She then said to me, have you got software? And I said, no. And so then we got the software, and it was just a game changer, the software. That then enhanced our meetings. It gave us a placeholder for our VTO. It was really the catalyst for me to be able to really implement and do it well, because then we could just put all that information in somewhere. And because we were now in a COVID world, all the team were meeting online anyway, so it just worked really well. But my journey is all the people and networks and coaches and groups and that sort of thing that's really supported me to get to here for sure.
And I always say that I think everybody needs like a personal coach or mentor. You need an operating system for your business. Personally, I prefer EOS. And then you need to have a peer group as well. And I think your EO gives you that peer group. And I know it's an amazing organisation for having those peer discussions, for that training, for that learning. And then, of course, EOS helps you to run that business. So tell me Rocket Fuel, I didn't realize that was the first book you read. I mean, that was a game changer for me, because I think that I've run businesses most of my life, either for people or for myself. And I've always tried to play both the visionary and the integrator role. I didn't realize they're two quite different skill sets. And of course, Rocket Fuel talks about that. They go, hey, look, the visionary is very much this kind of person. The integrator is this kind of person. And actually, it's best that you don't try and do both, because you don't get the best results. So tell me how business has changed since you started implementing EOS, even from self-implementation.
Where do I start? I mean, having a structure to follow. I guess really what I would say in response to that is the simplicity. So all of the things that are in EOS are what you can find in majority of business books. Building a business and a structure around a business is similar across it. You need accountability chart, right seats, right roles, other terms, right people in the right seats on the bus. All that sort of stuff's really real, but the simplicity is what's really key. I mean, I think initially my business map, or what we would have called it previously, probably had 8 leadership seats on it, and I was doing them all. And now we've got 3, and that's all we need. And so simple is easier. Things like being able to do the people analyzer, gets it, wants a capacity to do it. I mean, that was just the biggest breath of fresh air for me. Our team just use it left, right, and centre. They, if there's something going on, do they get it? Do they want it? Do they have the capacity to do it? The Elevate and Delegate tool, just to work out what you need to offload, how you can bring yourself up, what processes you need to build. The simplicity is the key, and we just didn't have that before. I think what happens with most entrepreneurs building a business is they make it too complex. And I did that, 100% did that. Made it so complex that it was too hard to operate.
I think it's true, and I think depending on where you've worked beforehand, I remember that when I was in corporate world, we'd have people, their version of a people analyzer, which was performance development review process. It was 14 pages, and it would take people 3 or 4 hours to fill it out, and then a couple of hours to go through it. And it's like, that's what we get taught, is you have to have this level of complexity. Whereas in actual fact, as you know, the people analyzer, it's a tool that doesn't even need a piece of paper. And if you really want to do it formally once a year, it's a 1-page piece of paper, and yet you can get everything out of that.
Yeah, I think the key, though, the one thing that I learned around that was that you can't have that without having an accountability chart with the key core competencies, because you need to be able to build that out and know what it is that person needs to do for that seat, for then to be able to assess them on the GWC. And so, I would read a lot of these things and try and do them, but I didn't have the other things. And so and I think that when I self-implemented, there was a little bit of a lack of clarity around that sort of side of it, which, we've just enhanced as we've gone, and obviously with your support, taken it to another level.
And I think you're right. I mean, you're quite fortunate. You read Get a Grip, which does take you through the kind of the process that an EOS implementer goes through. Yeah, whereas Traction is the how-to book. And what I find with a lot of clients that have been self-implementing is they've actually focused on the VTO, because that's the easy part, right? The 2-page plan, we've got all that, and it's actually done by the visionary who just writes it all down, goes, right, I've got a plan, tick, moving on. And really, that's the least important thing. As you said, the most important thing is that accountability chart. What are the roles, the functions that the business actually cannot live without? What do we want to hold these people accountable or responsible for? And then it starts to develop into all the other things, like how do we measure them? What are the scorecards? What's the measurables for that person? And you can do the whole people analyzer. So, yep, they share our values, but they actually did obviously the role. So I think that, reading the Get a Grip gives you a little bit more insight into that, but it's still, it's hard to do it when you're working in the business yourself, don't you think? Because I tried implementing EOS myself into my own business. And to be perfectly honest, even though I am completely trained and had done this, 30, 40 times with people, I completely fucked it up. And so I had to get a buddy in from EOS to actually help me with it. And that's just been a game changer as well, in terms of having an external person come in and they can see what you cannot see.
Oh, I mean, I'm glad you asked this question, Deborah, because I think the number one thing that I would say is that now I'm a participant and not a facilitator. And I want the accountability that you give me. I need it. I need to see things that I couldn't see, and I need to get better. I mean, I'm absolutely super driven by my own personal growth and awareness, and I want to be able to go into those sessions with an ability to contribute and learn and hear and give my team the freedom to challenge me and provide their thoughts and not try to facilitate it and fumble around and be, I don't know whether we should do this, or, like, because clearly, like, it's not, I'm not trained in it. So I've felt a ton of weight off my shoulders. I mean, the preparation I would have done for the quarterlies and things like that is pretty intense, and I feel like just having that pressure off. And one of the things I would say is that doing them with you is, I had this tendency to want this so perfect. I wanted it so perfect. And like, there's times where we've had sessions and it's just let it go, keep talking, get it out, work through it. And I probably would have shut things like that down and said, we need to move on. So just feeling the room, making sure that the environment's getting the right outcomes, and being a participant's huge. It's such a difference. It's been great. Been great to build out the VTO from everyone's opinion, not just mine, and me facilitating, so then everyone's a little bit guarded and doesn't really want to say stuff. Yeah. Because we've made significant changes to it, and prior to that, it would have just been all me. And I think people would have sort of had opinions but not necessarily said them.
And it's funny, isn't it? Because I've done through this self-implementing process with a number of clients now, probably about client number 5 of self-implementers, and they've all got a VTO and they've all got a version of accountability chart. And I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but I do like to challenge it. And I do think there is merit when you bring your team on the journey and they have input. You don't end up being a million miles away from what you thought it would be. You end up being pretty much on the same track as you thought. But the beauty of it is everybody's had their input. Everybody feels like they were heard. And so the level of buy-in is just massive, right? Because suddenly it's like, oh, we got to put that together as a team. So even if you've done it, it's like even just reviewing it can be really beneficial, I think, with the team, to make sure that they really are on the same page. And I know we've tweaked little things on the VTO, we've tweaked little things on the values just to make them really meaningful for the team.
Yeah, I mean, the reason that we developed the relationship we have today was because you were comfortable to work with what I'd already built, and I was really anxious about someone coming in and changing it all, and it sort of made me resist a bit getting to where we are today. But that was really refreshing for me. It really I think we changed quite a bit, but like, it was still like, I respect what you've done, and that was important. It was really important to me because I put a lot of work into it. And so, I mean, but just something simple, like we had 10, maybe between 6 to 8 words in our values for each one, and we've just changed them all to 2 words so we can remember them. Yeah. And like, because we couldn't. And so just simple things like that, which have been fantastic.
Cool. Hey, I'll tell you, do you have a favorite EOS tool?
I'd probably have to be GWC.
Yeah.
It has just been so significant for my ability to. My gut would always know, but I would be caught up in I can't deal with this right now.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as you ask those simple questions, you just know.
Yeah.
Next would be elevate and delegate, just to be able to put activities into buckets and help people grow and learn and find out what they do and don't want to do. And, it goes side by side with gets it, wants it, the capacity to do it, because that you might have someone in a seat that is not necessarily right for it, but they might be right for another one, and you can support that transition if need be. But we recently had a team member who's moved from a site manager to a project manager, and the conversations around him moving to a project manager was actually he would be a better project manager based on his attributes. Like, we could see it, and it was just clear because we had the things, the components defined. But there's lots that I would. The level 10 meeting has been amazing for our business.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big believer in the term celebrate problems as opportunities to fix.
Yep.
And I've always been very, very stern, I guess, with the team that a problem is an opportunity to fix, and we've built our business and systems around putting things that we learn into a place that fixes it forever. And that was before we even knew about EOS and the level 10 meetings, and to have a structure where team can place issues that they can then select in a meeting that then they can then fix. The power that gives them an investment into the business is enormous, because they don't have the ability to just complain. They have the opportunity to fix it. And
Be involved in fixing it, yeah.
Everything is micro moments that turn into large outcomes. And I'm a big believer in that. It's throughout the world. Little things make big things.
Well, that's cool. I want to talk a little bit about the scorecard as well, because I know that, the scorecard, people think that it's like a dashboard. You decide what you're going to measure, and then you just put it up there, and it's there forever. Yet I have a slightly different view of that scorecard. I believe that it actually takes a long time to get to a really good scorecard, and it should change depending on what the focus for the next 90 days of the business is as well. So tell us a little bit about your scorecard and how that's developed over time and what it does for you.
I'd say it's still developing.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I was going to say that too, but thanks for saying that.
It's hard. It's definitely hard. I think we're still tracking a lot of lag measures rather than lead measures, and we try and look for ways to improve that regularly. We've actually made some iterations to it just recently. I guess we've gone from 25 scorecards. We went to about 8, and we're now back to about 13, which I think is probably the right number. And I think one of the things that I've really found, and probably something I avoided a little bit early on, was to use money as a tool. But it's something everyone believes deeply is real, which it obviously has power, and everyone wants it. So it's a good decision-making component. And so we use the dollars, potentially loss of income for projects that are going over time, which is a lead measure, because the projects haven't finished, and so we've got day rates that we need to earn per day, so we can track that. Mm-hmm. Obviously, set revenue targets, and it's a bit of a controversial metric, revenue. I think it's a lag measure, but we also have forecasted revenue in there. So if we lose a job that we're pricing, it shows up very quickly.
Yep.
And so, if I were to answer your question, like more, I think what the scorecards do for us is they drive direction. And even though they need evolving, they are always being tracked and checked. An example, our operations manager.
And weekly, I think, is one of the key
weekly
things, right?
is essential, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I think, so I'll give you an example. So OH&S is quite important in the construction industry, as everyone would know, so occupational health and safety, but it is very challenging because there's obviously, we're talking about generating revenue, we're talking about like keeping jobs on track, where, you know, there's challenges all the time with things not quite right, whatever, like anything, I guess, but it can play a bit of a second sort of agenda. And so keeping guys motivated on it, you might have a burst for 1 month and then it drops off. And I went to one of our sites, it's a very unique site, and it's 3 meters off the ground. And so it's quite unique, and it's not something we've done before. It's in a flood zone, so there's all these requirements to elevate the property. And the team had pulled down the scaffold and were getting up there with an extension ladder. There was doors on a corner, wide open. There's a 3.5 meter drop, and I was just like, what's going on? Like, where's the OH&S here? And I mean, they're not complacent, but there just wasn't checks in place. And so instantly I put in a level 10 meeting. We had a discussion about it. We've created a checklist that now they do weekly. And what happens is that checklist is reported on in a weekly scorecard in the operations, that checklist has been filled out and it's online. It's 15 dot points, and it's making sure that the team are just walking around the site and doing an OH&S inspection. And the number one thing that'll make that happen every week is that scorecard's filled in.
Yeah.
And so it just adds to that accountability piece. So you might build systems in your business, but if you don't have something that they report on, it'll drop off.
Yep. I love it. And that's really cool because that brings the process to life, and it means there's no opportunity for it to be kind of swept under the carpet or forgotten about. It's part of the measurables. Yeah. And I think you're right. I mean, I think, you know, somewhere between 5 and 15 numbers is absolutely spot on. So for some businesses it's less, for others it's more. It just depends on what you're trying to do. And I think it depends on where the business is at too. What's going on in the business and what do we need? It's designed, as you said, to drive behavioral change, set direction, keep us on track. So whatever the business requires in that 90 days is what you should be measuring.
Yeah, I've introduced a lot of processes and systems into the business. We use Trello to track our projects. We've turned the projects into 8 different stages, and we have like Trello boards that we create every job. And we've had team members that we want running these boards. We've got guys that have helped develop the boards that are very motivated to use it, but then new team come in and they've got their own way of building, and they use these lists in the after rather than in the beginning, and they're designed to prompt your thinking, not to go, oh yeah, I did that, but I kind of did it. And so having an ability to force them to do an action. So they report on those boards now, which then feed into a scorecard, which then we can then translate into a scorecard that we put in, which we use 90. That extra action, it develops the habit. And what you need is to change habits. It's that simple. Like, people are set in their ways. They've done things a particular way. And so as a business owner, I've got to change their habits. And so that, like, adding something, I mean, we created quarterly revenue targets for the projects, and last quarter they smashed them out of the park. And before we didn't have that. And because they were tracking that, like they pushed so hard in that last month to hit them.
Yeah.
But in times gone by, they would have just drifted out.
And it's interesting, you talked about finances, and obviously you've got a lot of financial measures in the scorecard, which is great, helps keep it on track. I know a lot of people listening in might be thinking, oh, but if we share finances with the team, they'll know what we're making, or how the business is doing. How would you respond to that? Because I get that question a lot from people. It's like, I don't want to share the finances with the team.
Yeah. I think it's a cultural thing. Like I've never been. I don't want to be the bottleneck of this company. I want to free my time up, and my goal is for it to run on its own, so I can do other things to grow it in different ways. And our team run their budgets. They know all of the project margins. They produce all of the invoices. They do all of the variations or anything to do with the money and the project. I think transparency is really important. I feel like our bonus structures that we provide to our team, so our team have bonus structures based on performance. We call it make it happen dollars. So their KPIs are set depending on different roles, and there's a certain level of income they can earn in addition to their wage. And then there's revenue rewards. So if they generate certain levels of income for the business, they get additional amounts. And so if they're seeing profit and they're hitting their targets, they know they're going to get extra money. And so I think my team and our culture, they want me, they want us, they want the business to succeed. They're motivated by that. And so I don't think people can perform unless you give them your trust, and that they trust you, and that if you're hiding things from your team, then culture will suffer. I do also agree, though, that there is a time where that might not be right. Like my forum, my EO forum, quite big businesses in there that have had times where they've had people seeing things that are incredibly exciting for a business owner. And so there are times where you might need to put more emphasis on percentage rather than dollar.
And I think generally on the VTO, we have an overall income and then usually a percentage amount of GP or net profit, whatever people decide to actually put on there. But I think it gives an opportunity for you to actually educate the team as well. I mean, your team are very involved in the finances, but for a lot of businesses, a lot of people don't have any clue about that. And it's a great chance for them to actually see not only how the business becomes profitable, therefore we all benefit, but also where they can add value or ensure that is actually being achieved, which I think is important. Okay, I've got a couple more questions for you. They keep coming through. So the visionary integrator relationship. So I'm very happy that we've now got you as sort of a full-time integrator starting this week. But before that, I kind of stepped into a bit of fractional integrator work just to give you a bit of a sense of what an integrator can add to the business. You've already read Rocket Fuel years and years and years ago, but now putting it into actual practice, what's the benefit, do you think, of having an integrator and having VI meetings, etc., in the business?
Oh, not doing it alone. I remember reading Rocket Fuel and doing I don't know how long after, but I obviously was pretty interested in the content that was available online. So I did the assessment, and I remember being like equal visionary integrator with my responses, and I was like, oh, right. And then I was like, is that even right? And it turns out it's rare, but
it's rare. Yeah, 5%, I think they say, is people are like that. I'm one of those too.
Yeah, and I was like, well, it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense because I am envisaging everything and turning it into reality. I'm bringing these things to life. Now I have support around me. So that's been, really, really great. But like, it's only quite recent. Obviously, you've been helping me, Deborah, and I would say that the reason that we've got Tom joining us as an integrator now is because you were in that fractional seat and you said to me, he's your next integrator. And I said, let's make it happen in 3 months. And you said, why not tomorrow? And I was like, why not?
Yep.
And so, I mean, that's an example of the difference, because that has just been a seat that I have thought was not impossible to fill, but going to be quite challenging. And to have done it now and to have that support, I guess, or that clarity, the clarity of roles will no doubt drive this business forward and free me up to do bigger and better things.
Exactly, the big picture stuff, which is where the whole delegate and elevate that you talked about before. I mean, that whole point of that tool is to get people doing the things where they really add the most value to the business. And so if you're doing what you love and what you're really good at, then you're going to add huge amounts more value. And visionaries generally add more value when they're freed up to do the big picture stuff.
I also think that when you make decisions like this and change, that pressure that generates forces the business to grow. And we're seeing that across different departments where things have just got a little bit cruisy, or people are doing things for other people that they really shouldn't be because they're not creating a process or a system to elevate and delegate that person. And by making change, not every day, but as you grow the business, you should be making changes to force people to get better.
Yeah. And also as the business grows, the roles that you need are different as well. And so like understanding your team, understanding what they are really good at and where they want to go in the business is invaluable, because then you can actually help them develop into it. Or for some people, they're actually quite comfortable doing that role and not wanting to go any further. But knowing that means you can make better decisions about how you use them.
For sure.
Hey, I'm conscious of time. I've got one last question. I'm going to ask you for 3 top tips and tools. So my last question really is around, what would you say to anyone who is self-implementing EOS right now? What would be your advice to them?
Get an implementer. Get an implementer. Look, I would. I'm not dwelling on the past, but I feel like there was a number of conversations in the business for a couple of years around getting an implementer in to implement the system. And I think we got caught up on cost too much. And I guess I didn't have an integrator at the time to really sort of, I mean, even our team felt like I was doing a great job and didn't think we needed it. So it was really me driving it because I wanted the space and I needed the freedom to participate. And I would 100% say it's up there with one of the better decisions that we've made in the business.
That's awesome. Thank you. And I think you're right. There is definitely a cost involved, but hopefully people will see that there's value.
The value is next level.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. 3 top tips or tools. I mean, we've talked about heaps already, but if you just had to leave, the listeners with 3 things they should do when they leave this podcast, what would they be?
Well, when I got my first coach, he taught me the importance of reading, and he said that it's your cheat path. Like there's people that have done it before, and if you don't, invest your time in learning from others, you can't get a kickstart. And so having Mick open my eyes up to the world of personal development and growth was a game changer for not only my business but my personal life. It's helped me everywhere. I actually just went to a Tony Robbins event, which was just incredible. I've signed
I mean
up
to
for
ask
all
you
this
about
stuff.
that, but I'll ask that offline.
But, you know, I've got another coach with them, and I really feel like I'll never not have a mentor and that sort of environment in my world, and reading would be a huge tip, you know, like, and not reading anything, reading what you need. And the tip inside that would be that I learned from Jim Quick, who's a memory expert, that if you're reading a book, ask 3 questions to yourself that you want to learn from that book before you read it, so that they're very prominent when you read it. And that I tend to pick up books that I need to learn that thing. Like, I need to understand what it is that's in that book so that I can get that that knowledge to then implement into my business, or my integrator can implement into my business.
Yep.
Yeah.
I like that. So get yourself 3 questions, the answers that you need to get from that book. So when you're reading the book, you're actually taking it on board and you're coming up with the answers to that. Get a coach or a mentor. As I said, that's always my thing. I think everybody needs a personal coach or a mentor. It just personal development is huge. Third thing?
Well, I think business and what you do are quite separate. And I think a lot of people get into business from a technician mindset because they're good at something, but they're 2 different things. So building a business and being good at, like for us, building houses, they're quite different. And so having a process to operate your business under is essential, to be able to follow some sort of model that enables you to see the path forward. Business can be very overwhelming, but if you've got clarity and can see how you navigate things so you can break through glass ceilings, it's very, very liberating.
Yep. I love it. I could not have prompted you any better. Thank you, Adam. You've been awesome. But I hear you. I mean, all those things that I think are really important. And
I definitely, while there is some prompting, these are really important to me. I mean, being able to follow a structure. I actually am a coach for small business owners in the accelerator group in EO, so businesses from $250,000 and pushing them to $1 million so they can be good EO members. And I've done that for 3 years, and I have different themes for the people I coach. And this year it's structural success, because I have talked to them about profit first. I've talked to them about the one thing, the book, The One Thing, and determining what it is that you need to work on and what's most important. But ultimately, if you don't develop a structure for your business to operate under, it's not going to work. You need the clarity to be able to develop the business so that you can foresee what you need to do in the future. Even if you're filling every seat in the business, you need to be able to know what it is that you need to do in the future so that you can move that direction. Otherwise, it could be a real whirlwind. And particularly for us, we see a lot of trades businesses. They're great plumbers, they're great electricians, they do amazing work, and then they end up with 12 staff, and that just falls apart because they have no model, no structure, and then they're back to doing the work themselves with 3 guys, and it's just this vicious circle. And you see it all the time.
yeah. So, I mean, that's a very lovely lead into, if you want any traction or get a grip books, let me know for your, for your people that you're coaching. But same to the listeners, like, honestly, traction is the how-to book. Get a grip tells you the way that you should do it. I can't, even if you want to self-implement, I'm fully supportive of that. You've got to do something, otherwise the business falls apart. And that comes from somebody who's owned businesses that have done really, really well, and also had a couple of pretty massive failures as well. And that generally came down to lack of structure, lack of measurables, not really knowing how we're operating it, not getting the processes right. So yeah, EOS is definitely a game changer. Hey, Adam, tell me a little bit about what is your ideal client for Builders of Architecture? Who do you love working with? Because you've got the architect side, you've got the client side as well. Tell us a little bit about who you enjoy working with and why.
Well, from a personality perspective, a decision maker, someone that's, really committed to the direction that they're heading. Our clients, we call them forever homes that we build. We don't work with people that are looking to make a quick buck, because we don't build homes that can be built to that level of quality. They're homes that last forever. So, they're professionals. We do a lot of work for doctors, and that sort of has just been a natural progression. We've worked with a few that refer us to others and that sort of thing. We work with clients that are motivated by building a team around them, and they want a builder and a client and an architect to work together to get to a good outcome. Our demographic is a little bit, we were doing a lot of homes for people that were expanding their family and loved the area that they lived in, loved the schools for their kids, had been in the house for a little while and needed to grow it to suit their new lifestyle. So it was predominantly 35 to 40. Majority of the time it was the wife that was driving the decision to build, because they needed more space.
So somebody who really wants partners in the process who are going to make sure you get the best possible result. And that forever home, it's actually part of the proven process, right? Your proven process is that even once you've built it, you're regularly revisiting to make sure everything is still absolutely as it should be, and keeping everything on track, right?
Yes. So I've actually tweaked it a little bit after I came to Strong in 6 with you, Debra, because I heard someone there say that their guarantee, this company, it was an architectural firm, and their guarantee was that they would be friends at the end of the project, which I just loved. I just thought that was amazing. So ours is we'll be friends at the end of the project, and we will do an annual inspection every year as long as you live there.
That is awesome.
So, yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay, Adam, that's brilliant. Hey, thank you so much for your time. If people want to get in contact with you, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
They can jump on my LinkedIn page, or they could give me a call.
Yeah, okay. What's your number?
Yeah, I mean, is it appropriate to share my number here?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I can.
I've had people from the US give out their numbers, and people who are really high profile kind of go, yeah, give me a call. Bob Berg, I don't know if you know who Bob Berg is, but he wrote the Go Giver series. Amazing man. He came on the podcast, and also his writing partner as well, David. And they literally said, here's our contact details. If anybody wants to get in contact with us, you can just call us. It's like, okay.
Yeah, well, it's Adam at buildersofarchitecture.com.au, and my mobile 0423 660 305. Please reach out. Happy to have a chat. I'm very motivated by people having a good experience building their homes. So regardless of the situation you're in, or you've just got a couple of questions, I'm more than happy to support the journey, because it can be an overwhelming one.
Yeah, completely understand. Hey, look, Adam, look forward to seeing you in our level 10 meeting later on today, but it's been great to talk to you on here. Thanks for your time. Thanks for sharing. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the podcast show, Better Business, Better Life. My name is Debra Chantry-Taylor. I'm an EOS implementer, family business advisor, business and leadership coach, podcaster, and speaker. However, I'm also a business owner with several current business interests. I'm fortunate to have lived the high life with all the lifestyle, the toys, you name it, and then I've lost it all, not only once, but twice in 2 spectacular train wrecks. I know what it's like to experience the highs and lows. I came across EOS when they launched into New Zealand using my Entrepreneurs Playground and Event Centre in Parnell, Auckland. I love the simplicity of the tools, and their philosophies fitted my personal brand statement perfectly. The brilliance is in the simplicity. I've always been passionate about seeing entrepreneurs lead a life they love, and now I help them live that EOS life. Doing what they love, with people they love, making a huge difference in the world, being compensated appropriately, and with time to pursue other passions. If you want more information or want to get in contact about using EOS in your business, you can visit my website at debra.coach. That's www.debra.coach. Thanks for listening.